Hi, this is Wendy from Wendy's Classic Corner, and today we're in the beautiful north side of Pittsburgh. Have you heard of the Photo Antiquities Museum? You cannot believe what amazing artifacts they have hidden in plain sight right here on East Ohio Street. Come along with me as we go a couple centuries into the past. You don't want to miss this. Let's go. So we're here with Bruce Klein, the founder of the Photo Antiquities Museum of Photographic History. Bruce, hi, welcome.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you for being on Wendy's Classic Corner. We're so excited to check out your museum today. How many years has this museum been here?
31.
Amazing.
I opened it in 1993, and it's the only 19th century photographic museum in the United States.
Oh, that's so awesome. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of this. You're kind of here in the north side on East Ohio Street, but I think we need to get the word out.
Well, it's a history lesson.
Yeah.
And basically, we have a mission. Our mission is the preservation, presentation, and education of the history of photography.
Yeah, people have got to come out here and see this. And especially, I think what they really want, what should really want to see is this: you have the first photograph in history.
We have a copy of the first photograph, yes.
Not the actual photograph.
The first photograph was taken by Joseph Niepce in 1826, and it was an 8-hour exposure. His lens had to stay open for 8 hours to make the exposure. And it's a very small image. It actually sits in the University of Austin in their vaults today, but we do have a copy on display. It has faded a little over the years. But he did work with another gentleman, Louis-Jacques Mandate Daguerre. And Daguerre was able to stop it from fading away. Instead of using a piece of pewter, he used a piece of copper. He put silver on it, he polished it until it was a mirrored surface. And his exposure time went from 8 hours to under 30 minutes. And a Daguerre type, this one here is 170 years old. And it's as good as the day it was taken, 170 years ago.
Yeah, and your first photograph, that's almost 200 years old.
It is almost 200 years now.
Yeah, because with 2024.
Right, yes.
And these, so they put them in these kind of, these Daguerre type, they put them in these little commemorative, like decorative boxes.
Yeah, these little cases. There's a front and back cover, and this way it protects it from getting oxidized and fading away, yes.
Yeah, and Daguerre and Niepce, they kind of started a partnership, right?
They did. They worked together for a while, and then, of course, when they separated, Daguerre kind of got all the credit. But Daguerre's photos didn't fade, though. They lasted. And like I said, this one was 170 years old, and it's as good as the day it was taken.
And then after, what is the next process that came after that?
So after that, it was called an ambrotype. This is a image on glass. You can see it looks like a negative, and then you put a black backing on it, and it becomes a positive image. 1854, and that was done in England in 1854. But the problem with that is every time you dropped it, you cracked your photo. So the third substrate is called a tintype.
Yeah.
And a tintype in 1856 was developed here in Kenyon College over in Ohio. It's the only process that we developed here in the United States, and it's actually on a piece of iron, and you don't have to worry about glass breakage or mercury poisoning. And so it was a really good process.
And this was pretty popular during the Civil War, I think.
It was, and the second process during the Civil War, which came after that, was called a carte de visite, or CDV. And this is on paper, and the beauty of this is they had a glass negative, With a glass negative, you can make as many as you want. With the daguerreotype, they're one of a kind. But now this, you can make as many as you want, and it was affordable. So if you would put the cost back in the 1860s during the Civil War into 2024, the cost would be about $10, where a daguerreotype in today's money would be about $1,000.
Wow.
So the CDV was affordable to the masses, and that's why a lot of Civil War soldiers had the CDVs as well as the tin types.
So they kind of went from copper to glass to tin to paper.
Yes, correct.
Awesome. So that's really interesting. Thank you for showing us those.
Sure.
And also, I'm really interested in hearing about these beautiful, beautiful slides you have here.
So these are called lantern slides. These are images that are on glass. They are black and white images, and they are hand colored. They were projected 10 foot by 20 foot. So if you're going to project an image that big, you got to make sure that the coloring is exactly where it had to be. They used a single hair brush just to be able to color these. And it was a way that people traveled the world, because in the late 1800s, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have movies, and everything we saw was basically a pencil drawing. So they actually sent people from all parts of the world, and they photographed every country, and they brought them back, and they made a slideshow. Think of it as a slideshow. They would project up onto a wall, and you travel the world through the lantern slide.
Oh, that's awesome. And these also, you can see all these lantern slides, they do look like they're from different parts of the world.
Oh, yes, all over the world. And of course, we even have some for local ones from Pittsburgh here.
Oh, awesome. And I think you were going to show us some other really cool things. I think, what, a stereo viewer?
Stereo viewers, cabinet cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
All right, let's go check. Yeah, let's go check those out. Okay, so we're over here with some of these stereoscopes, but I think you had wanted to mention some things about all these photographs you have in these cabinets here.
Yeah, in the cabinets I have a variety of other ones. I have cabinet cards, I have the CDVs, and I even have the backs of some of these beautiful graphics on the backs. I have some mug shots. So there's a variety of different types of photographic processes I show, in a variety, so you can see what people look like over the years.
And what are cabinet cards?
Cabinet cards were developed in 1866. And they had a larger negative. It was 6 inches by 9. So each cabinet card is about this big, and people wanted a larger photo. The little CDVs, they were a little small, so they wanted something a little larger for people to see.
And the mug shots are really interesting. So they would take that, what, at the jail?
That would be at the police station or at the jail, and the information on the back would talk about the height, the weight, what the crime was. Like one lady, she was arrested for suspicious character. Oh. So it's about as generic as you can get.
Well, thank goodness they don't arrest suspicious characters anymore. I mean, I think I'd be arrested. And so you also wanted to tell us a little about these stereoscopes?
The stereoscopes. So yes, so stereoscopes and stereo views were actually used way back with daguerreotypes. So 3D was very important. Yeah. And if you want to take a look through this one, you can see there's a beautiful hand-colored stereo view in there.
And don't they have two images that sort of blend together?
So it's two images side by side, 3.5 inches apart, same distance your eyes are, and then when you look at them through the lens, your brain will put one on top of the other and becomes 3D. Yeah,
that's really cool. And you have a lot of these different. And
we do.
They still use this technology today, do they not?
Well, it's a little different today, sure, but if you look at the old Viewmasters that the kids even play with today, it's also the same principle. It's two images side by side.
I was going to say, it reminds me of those things you'd put the little red thing, and you'd put the thing in, and you'd be able to see all the pictures.
That's right, the Viewmasters, yes.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of aging myself there.
But they still make them today.
Yeah, awesome. So anything else you want to talk about in this particular section?
We have a lot of different viewers here. Yeah. Some are floor viewers, some are tabletop viewers. Some of these could hold up to 300 stereo views. This one happens to have images on glass. Oh, wow. So that when you look at those, the 3D really comes out. And
what range of years are these?
So these usually date in the 1870s to about 1890s.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And but they're made for, home use. They're made for inside of a museum, things on that order.
Okay, and then I think you have a really, really gigantic camera to show us.
I do, yes.
All right.
We can go see that now.
Let's go check that out. So we're over here by that 8x10 camera you were talking about. Tell us a little
Yes.
about this camera, please.
So that camera was taking photos that are 8 inches by 10 inches. It was probably manufactured in around 1920s, and it actually comes from Italy, this camera. It produces an 8x10 negative. As you can see on here, the image is upside down and backwards, and that is how a negative is produced. And then when you put it onto a piece of paper, it becomes a positive. Here's one of the negatives that it produces. And as you can see, it is an 8x10 size negative, so it's very large. And you can imagine because of that, the image is very, very sharp. And so these produce great quality images. And again, these cameras, they're 100 years old.
And people still do kind of use these cameras today.
There are a few people
to produce these really high resolution type images.
Yes, there is. There's a few people that still shoot 8x10. More shoot the size down, which is 4x5. But yes, Ansel Adams, when he would do all of his photographs, he shot an 8x10 camera.
Yeah. It's a little cumbersome, I guess.
Yes, especially on horseback.
Wow, yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
And so you also wanted to show us some other photographs. We have the Pittsburgh 150-year
This is
inauguration.
a sesquicentennial, yeah.
Awesome.
It was done in 1908 when Pittsburgh was 150 years old.
Wow.
And the city built some beautiful arches downtown. They brought famous people in. They even had a Western Pennsylvania Native American tribe. They raced boats on the Menon River,
Yeah.
and they had marches downtown. The police and the firemen would march through these archways. It was a major event when Pittsburgh was 150 years old, and we have the whole sesquicentennial exhibit on display.
Oh, that's awesome. And then what did they do with the arches? They just tore them back down?
Eventually, they tore them down, sorry
Oh.
to say. Yes, they are beautiful,
Yeah,
and
really pretty.
it's a shame they didn't keep them up.
Yeah,
People would visit
absolutely.
the city just to see them if they still had them.
It's really interesting to see these historical pictures of Pittsburgh in general. And you said this was in 1908.
1908, this
Yeah.
was taken, yes.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, those are really nice. And then I think you wanted to show us some really, really interesting photographs. I'm a little bit freaked out about these ones, but we're going to go check these
Okay,
out.
this is on the postmortem
Yeah,
photography.
all right. Well,
Okay,
let's check 'em
go
out.
see that.
so Bruce, we're over here with these post-mortem photos. So can you tell us a little bit about these?
Sure. So first thing you'll notice is a lot of very young children.
Yeah.
Back then it was very high infant mortality rate. They started to do these post-mortem photos with the daguerreotype, and then with the ambrotype, tintype, and even the CDVs. And a lot of times it was the only photo that the parent had, and they didn't want you to think it was from death. So what they would do is they would actually sit them up, make them look like they're sleeping, and sometimes even open their eyes. So postmortem photography has been around since photography started, 1839.
And these are from what time frame would you guess?
Yes, well, there's a daguerreotype
Yep.
from the 1840s. There's ambrotypes from the 1850s, tintypes from the 50s and 60s, CDVs and cabinet cards from the 50s and 1860s. So back in the 1800s, every photographic process that we had were done postmortems.
Oh, and do they still do these today?
They do,
Really?
but for different reasons. Back then is because they never had a photograph of the
Right.
child. Today, someone passes away and their family members may live out of state or even out of the country and hadn't seen them in 20 or 30 years, and hire photographers to go into the funeral homes and take pictures just so they can see what they look like when they passed.
Okay, well, interesting.
So
Okay, so next I think we're going to go check out some cameras.
cameras, or we can go check out a 19th century studio.
Oh, let's do one of the two of those.
Okay, great.
It'll be a surprise.
Okay.